Hello viewers, we're watching Talk to Addis program with me, your host Darullah Berhani. Our today's Talk to Addis program will feature on Dr. Loris Curtis, who is an educator in children education. To stay with us. Welcome, Dr. Loris Curtis, to our program.
Thank you. Thank you. It's an honor to be here.
Okay, to begin with, would you please tell us a bit about your background so that our viewers will know who Dr. Loris Curtis is?
Well, I am actually trained first as an elementary teacher. I taught elementary or grade school for 15 years and then went and taught at the university, at Kansas State University in the USA, and I was there for 14 years. And I taught undergraduate and graduate courses and directed the reading specialist program there. I then left the university, and I actually had an early retirement in order to come and complete a curriculum that I was establishing for Ethiopia Reads that would help train librarians and teachers in how to use books with children. And then I came out of retirement, and I now work at the Kansas State Department of Education in the state of Kansas, and I help lead the early literacy and dyslexia program team there.
Can you please share the mission and vision of Ethiopia Reads and how are they compatible to your daily operations?
Absolutely. So I became engaged with Ethiopia Reads back in 2010 when I brought a group of teachers from the United States here on a Fulbright Hays group project abroad, where we were studying the amazing diversity that we find in Ethiopia, geographic, linguistic, religious, all of it. It was an incredible experience. And Jane Kurtz, a children's author, helped us establish scholars along our route throughout the country to help us understand a little more about this amazing country. And it was in that month that I spent there in 2010, traveling around Ethiopia, that I saw the incredible work that Ethiopia Reads was doing. And I visited many of their libraries and spoke with the staff that was here. And so that was my first engagement with Ethiopia Reads. And after I returned to the United States, I wanted to stay connected to them. And I've been coming back ever since. The reason I wanted to stay engaged is I saw not only the difference that they could make with children in providing access to books, but that they understood the importance of building capacity of adults, librarians and teachers, because it's those individuals that really will make the difference in engaging children in using books.
How does Ethiopia Reads collaborate with local communities and international stakeholders? Would you please say something about that?
I think the most important thing Ethiopia Reads does is it listens well. So we've been engaged in conversations with the ministry to find out what we can do to support the work that they would have done throughout the country, listen to other stakeholders. The work of Ethiopia Reads is done here in Ethiopia. We are a team of volunteers. Everyone on the board is a volunteer. We do not get paid for working with Ethiopia Reads. We have one half-time employee in the United States that helps manage funding back and forth, but the work of Ethiopia Reads is done in Ethiopia by an incredible team of Ethiopian young adults.
What types of partnership does Ethiopia Reads dwell on locally and internationally? And how are they really helpful in realizing your missions?
We have several people on our board that represent different organizations and try to connect with one another. We all have different areas of expertise. For example, we have different committees. And so the work that I do is on book-centered learning. So I work with librarians and teachers in the United States. We have others that work with other outreach and know how to network and meet with people. And our president, our chair of our board, is Malcolm Clark. He lives in San Francisco. His wife is Ethiopian. And I think we also try to do all we can to work with the Ethiopian population. Yeah.
Very good. How does Ethiopia Reads secure funding, and what are the biggest challenges as to realize these efforts?
The main focus that we have in Ethiopia Reads is to make sure that children have access to books and an adult in a library that is trained in helping them use those books more fully. And so we have not only really worked to support writers and readers here in Ethiopia to create books, to support the publishing industry here, but we also, our key focus is professional learning of librarians and teachers. Making sure we advocate for the importance of libraries and libraries for children specifically. That libraries are not just an academic place where adults go to write papers and research, but also that children go to engage with stories that can help them enjoy life and also encourage them to write their own ideas down. So it's all about literacy, access to books, and the training of professionals in using those books.
Very good. Moving to the next question. How do you measure the impact of your programs on literacy rates, and how impactful are they to the betterment of educational outcomes on the side of children? I would be glad to hear this from you.
We have several ways that we do that. In the curriculum that we've designed, which is kind of a three-part curriculum in training librarians and teachers, we piloted that using schools and collecting data, both on what was being done in libraries and schools initially, and then what was done at the end of our training, and we've acknowledged and we've reported at the summit on those gains. We always keep track of who's accessing the libraries and the books and that, so we do keep that type of data as well. Recently, when we were involved with the World Bank projects, getting books into IDP centers and making sure that those there understood how to use the books. We collected both qualitative and quantitative data on what was being done in those centers, and there were interviews conducted to provide that qualitative data to see that there was engagement in the books and use of the books and how those books were being used.
So how impactful was that?
It was incredible. Those reports are then provided to the board and also back to World Bank. So those were three challenging projects that our team was able to fulfill, and it was incredible to see that a small group of dedicated people in Ethiopia did very courageous things to get those projects completed. A project on curious learning, and ICOG was the group that's helping develop digital storybooks for children you can access on a digital device, on a cell phone. I think it's important that we use all ways to get text in front of children and help them engage in books, whether that's through a physical book or a digital book. I also would just make sure everyone understands that in addition to accessing that book, it's really valuable for parents or anyone who's helping that book be downloaded and used, is that they understand how to then move that learning forward and talk about that book and discuss about that book. So rather than just having a child engage with a screen, that there's oral language going back and forth to build upon whatever we can access from a digital book, just like there should be with a paper copy of a book, right? It's that relation part of sharing a book with someone else. So I think there is great promise in the use of digital literacy. But also that people who are using that with children understand the value of oral language, and that there's additional learning that can be gained when you discuss what's on those digital screens and platforms.
I hope that education is a very great taxing kind of activity, specifically children education. So I would be glad to hear success stories, because you are dwelling on a very, transgenerational kind of activity. So it might be demanding, but at last it will be rewarding. So tell us the success stories that you have had in different engaging communities.
We have had success stories, and we receive as a board, we receive a report every month. And I will tell you, sometimes I cry when I see the words and the discussion that children will give about books. There are success stories in that children are engaging in the library, and just recently on this trip, I heard about a young girl who's been displaced from her school due to civil conflict, and she's come to Addis, and she's living with a relative here, and she comes to Gebeta Library, which is the Ethiopia Reads Library where their office is, and she's reading every day with a librarian and engaging in books. And I listened to her read fluently the other day and talk about the book she's reading, and I'm just so impressed that we open our doors to any child or family. We also run summer programs where children can come and engage in books and be cared for by a staff that will help them love to learn literacy.
Doctor, you might have heard about, the different feeding centers that these days children from KG up to elementary in different schools of Addis Ababa, they are giving meals, and nutrition has got a very beneficial kind of thing for children education, because it helps to prevent stunting, and as well, if a child is starved, he or she cannot attend the schooling properly. So how do you see this kind of initiative? What reflections do you have as an educator?
I was just excited because I got to visit an early development center in a health center while I've been here. So I was thinking about all of the things I saw, because we're providing books to be used in those centers and helping parents understand how to use those books and engage with children. Okay. So I see that. I don't think we do as a great a job of that integration as you're trying to do here in the country where I am. But I was able to visit those centers, and they have not only included books, they're trying to get more, they don't have enough, so Ethiopia Reads is helping them with that. But they're providing books and then helping train families in how to make very inexpensive play materials and looking at cognitive development of children from birth. So they have boxes of toys and appropriate materials to use birth to age two to age 4, helping families understand the importance of not only nutrition, also health care for young children, but then also that emotional and cognitive work that would be done through play and through books. So that's part of what's going on in the mayor's office work that we saw while we were here.
ትውልድን መገንባት ሀገር መገንባት ነው ብለን አመን።
We believe building generation is building a nation. On the other hand, our country Ethiopia, including our continent Africa, is youth populated. We see many children grow, exceeding youth in number. We say we want a prosperous Africa, Ethiopia, as well as Addis Ababa. In order to realize that goal, we need to work on building generation. So that is why we focused on early childhood development. That is the age where a generation building is started.
Again, you might have heard about ECD, early childhood development. This is a great initiative. This is an initiative that Addis Ababa has already designed it to make itself a preferable city to raise children in the coming 2026 calendar. Ethiopian calendar, actually, not this in the Gregorian calendar. After, we are now in Ethiopia 2017, after 9 years, it aims to reach at that level. It's a 10-year plan. So how do you see that initiative? I will be glad to hear your reflection in this regard.
I have such hope. I've seen it the last 2 years I've been here. I have gotten to see the work and on early childhood development and the focus that is being given. And I saw 2 centers earlier this week, and in one of them, it's those that are working there and the parents who've decided, in addition to this health center and the opportunity they have to get health care and things in this area, they want a playground. So the parents are painting the mural and they are creating the space for children to play. So I think it will take all. It will take parents, it will take governmental initiatives. It will take NGOs like I am with as a volunteer. It's going to take everybody, and including the ministry, to provide that professional learning for what does it look like, because we can't just tell parents, you need to do this, you need to help your children. We need to show them how. We need to show them opportunities and ways to do it in fun and engaging ways, because they're very busy, right? We're all busy. So I think one thing Ethiopia Reads does very well is model. When they do reading festivals, they model read-alouds. They model for parents in their libraries. They do storytelling, and they model how you can help children write stories. And so I think anytime you can have organizations like Ethiopia Reads that provide a space for families and educators to come learn and watch and try it, it's valuable. So I think it will take a multifaceted response from everyone, educators, parents, families, volunteers, even old teachers from the United States to help bring everything together.
Now, Addis Ababa has said, has planned to be a very preferable place in 2026.
Yeah.
City to raise children and for education. That's the agenda. But as an educator, a person who can just overact things from various perspectives, how do you see that? That is it.
I see its work. I mean, I see progress. Every time I've come, I've seen progress. And when I visited the two centers this week, when I'd been here last year, I heard them talk about it. Child Care Center, I went to visit one of those last year. I saw them talk about it. But when I came this time, I saw them doing it. Good. That's what it takes, right? Yeah. I mean, you can talk a lot, but when you do it. And I saw the staff that they had who was excited about doing what they were doing. And there was a very clear protocol in how to engage families and help them understand how to take care of themselves when they were expecting babies, how would they talk to children from birth. There was a protocol set up, and I went to two centers and they were actually quite far apart, and everyone was saying the same thing. So I think there is a system that's really being tried to be implemented with fidelity. And so I think we have to look at all of those as being very hopeful things. And I think the opportunity Ethiopia Reads has to provide books and to support writers and illustrators that are Ethiopian, because the goal of Ethiopia Reads is to change the culture of literacy in Ethiopia. And to do that, it has to be more than bringing in anything. It has to be to develop this amazing capacity of the people that live here to tell their stories, to write their stories, to read those stories, to build the country they want to build. So that's why I stay with Ethiopia Reads, because I see they are committed to doing this.
I'm done with my questions, but before we just wrap up, I would be very much glad if you have something that you would like to impart to our viewers vis-a-vis the children's education that you have come along all the way of your experiences.
My advice would be that building a child who can read starts at birth. The first interactions that a parent has with a baby starts building background knowledge and vocabulary and provides a foundation for them to learn to read. So I think first valuing that parents are the child's first teacher in engaging them in loving language, and whether it's songs and fun and storytelling and all of that. But then as children enter school, I think the most important thing is that teachers are well trained, not just in the use of a language, but in the actual act of teaching reading, helping children connect a sound with a symbol, and helping them understand then that vocabulary of what those words will mean that they'll build. So I think explicit instruction in how we teach reading so that children can engage with their language is critical. But to do that takes intentional and intensive professional development of teachers. So if there was one thing that I could see, would be that as teachers are trained in their colleges, that they are provided the best instruction in teaching not only language but reading skills for children, being able to identify children that struggle in reading and know what to do to help, to assess their ability, to make sure that, because just because we've taught something doesn't mean a child's learned it. So we need to make sure we assess for learning. And so I think, to me, the hope is in professional development or professional learning of teachers and librarians, because that will build the capacity for them to teach the children, and as they will grow, you will see change. And also, I think, as you mentioned, challenges. One of the largest challenges that I see is the tremendous turnover of librarians and teachers, and school administrators sometimes, and it takes a continuity to build a momentum, to make change. So I think anything we can do to raise the level of value that people hold for educators will enhance the work that the ministry and others are trying to do.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure and an honor to have you. And we have shared some insightful ideas about childhood education, and you are dwelling on literacy of children, and which is very much appreciated. Thank you very much. Viewers, this brings us to the end of our today's talk show that we had with Dr. Loris Curtis, who is an educator in children literacy and who is a board member of Ethiopia Reads. Till we meet up with another guest in another episode, our program ends here. Enjoy the upcoming programs of AMN+.